Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Episode 2, Adrift. Uh, there will be no spoilers here. I like to do the reviews for these no spoilers. I just kind of want to talk about how the episode made me feel, what my reactions were, all that kind of stuff. To give you a quick synopsis, but before that, let's talk about the creators behind this episode. This episode is also directed by J.A. Bayona, written by John D. Payne and Patrick McKay, and of course, this is all based on the writing of J.R.R. Tolkien. Uh, so in this episode, Galadriel finds a new ally. Elrond faces a cold reception from an old friend, and Nori endeavors to help a stranger. Arondir searches for the answers, while Bronin warns the people of an upcoming threat. So yeah, those are the main four things that I'll focus on as far as just storytelling and all that. I gotta say, this episode stepped things up a notch from the last one. I think the last one was a lot of setup, a lot of like, let's figure out where we are on Middle Earth, what the story is. And then this one, now that we know our really, I guess I would say call them our four main characters so far. There's definitely gonna be more introduced, and we meet a lot of people in this episode. So let's talk about those characters specifically. The actors portraying them, and then we'll get into more of the review. So Galadriel is portrayed by Morfred Clark. Markella Kavanagh portrays Nori Brandyfoot. Robert Aramayo is Elrond, and Ismael Cruz Cordova is Arondir. So yeah, let's start with Arondir's story. So this one is, as I talked about in the last video, the whole first episode had a sense of loom, like something was coming, just very uneasy. And here we are now. All that stuff is a little bit paying off more. I love all the little pieces together that are scattered throughout this world, but they're all kind of pointing in the same direction, especially because as a viewer, we kind of know where all things eventually end up in the far, far future, right? This is obviously in the Second Age. So it's really interesting. I love the character of Arondir. I think he's a very well crafted character. He has a vision of duty and protecting the people around him, and that's kind of like it may sometimes get in the way of his own personal desires, right? So we know that he's pretty sweet on Bronwyn, but the people of the town, and really, they don't. Nobody really wants the elves around because they've lived in such an era of peace for such a long time. They feel like they're just encroaching them. So yeah, as the elves begin to leave and retreat, things kind of start happening. So this is probably where we see the biggest physical threat to the world right now at the moment. I would say, as far as like an overwhelming presence that maybe has not been seen in a long time. So very, very cool. Next, let's talk about Nori and the Harfoot. Um, so we know at the end of the last episode something landed. Nori now has found it, and it's this stranger who we don't know what the stranger wants. We don't know what their end goal is, but we do know that there's something off about him. And in this episode, we explore that. I really love Nori's approach to like the story, like very she's very inquisitive and really wants, like, she is one of those one of those beings that just wants to know what else is out there. But obviously the way that the Hartford society is built, you really kind of stay within your own bubble, and you move around, migrate, and all this stuff to protect everyone, right? So it's really interesting. I just love her inquisitive nature. Really, really fun. But yeah, even with the best of intentions, I don't really know what the stranger is going to end up happening. So really, really cool. I like that a lot. Let's talk about Elrond. That was probably the most uplifting of the sequences that we have. We do him have He goes to visit an old friend, and I think there's a part of it that really made me think about how elves, because of their long lifespans, sometimes time is grasped very differently. I think there was also a theme in the later Lord of the Rings, but it's really nice to bring it back to this, because as a regular being, like, when you're friends with an elf, as somebody that's not immortal or has a long life, uh, you're gonna have a big part of your life happen. Whereas to the elves, it could be just like, a weekend or whatever. Like it could feel like that because of the difference in perspective. So I think that those themes and the theme of friendship and how you need people like to coexist outside of outside of your own kind in this world is really important. But there's obviously that distinction. I think the elves are very separated from everything, only where they feel like duty it's leading them. So really really interesting. I think there's always been an uneasy relationship with elves and anybody else that approaches them, at least just in what I've seen. You guys can let me know more in the comment. But I really like the story. Like I said, this was the more uplifting one, the more that had a bit of a nicer theme to it, because there's definitely this story is actually moving in a direction where I want them to succeed and kind of be happy. So really interesting stuff. Finally, probably the most cinematic of the storylines that are going on right now. Galadriel, after she decides not to go on the boat to, whatever that whatever that light ends up being. I did put out a call. If you know what that ritual or what that process is for the elves, like what happens after they go on that boat, let me know down in the comments. I'd be really interested to know what I don't know that part of the lore. So, anyways, she decides not to go. She is adrift in the ocean, which is kind of like why this episode is called that. And she does stumble onto a new ally, but it's all very uneasy. There's a really cool sequence, probably my favorite sequence of the episode, with this. There's a threat in the sea because they are in the middle of the ocean. So, really cool stuff. I like that a lot. It looked great. I think, especially when you shoot when you make something where there's water surrounding everything, like it's really difficult for everyone involved. But they make it like this production team really is making it look easy. Now granted, they have a lot of money to make it look easy, so that's definitely an advantage. So I enjoyed this episode a lot, as somebody that is coming into this only knowing a little bit about the Lord of the Rings movies and not I've never explored the lore. I understand that they only have access to like the Lord of the Rings and some of the appendices, so like some of the things may be different, but that doesn't like I have no impact because of that. I don't have any prior knowledge coming in. So sometimes I Google a little bit. Once again, as I said, I love the X-ray vision on Prime because you can stop, figure out who the characters are that are on the screen, and then you can go from there to do a little bit of research, especially trying to avoid spoilers because I don't want, which seems kind of weird. I do wonder how this what the payoff ultimately will be for this series, but I think because they have such a long time in between what's happening here, and the events of the movies. I think it'd be real interesting. The main thing I've learned is Galadriel is just a badass, like overall, which I don't know that we see as much action from Galadriel in the Lord of the Rings movies. So really glad to see that. You guys let me know how you're enjoying the Lord of the Rings Rings of Power series. I'm really enjoying it. I'm glad we got 2 episodes to start. It was a nice way to dive deep. I didn't watch them back to back, so but yeah, as always, thanks for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Sundays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned because we have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye bye.